Good evening, everybody. It is I, Producer D, aka David Mason, aka The Goose, or whatever else you want to call me. I am here. We are live at the OTPH show. Tonight we're going to be talking about the weekend, or the week, or whatever it was, because quite honestly, it has been a little bit of a trying week in the terms of the political arena. We're not going to go too far into it. We're not going to start pointing fingers and anything else, but tonight we are going to talk mostly about the fact that Joe Biden dropped out of the race. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris and what is next, and if she is truly the presumptive next one in line for the Democrat Party nomination, and also more stuff because this week has been a true shit show here in America. So, guys, sit down, buckle up. It is the OTPH show, and we are ready to roll. And there you have it. That's the briefest of that I can humanly get my hands on, guys. It has been an intriguing week, to say the least, here in the great old US of A. Over the weekend, we were all shocked to see that President Joe Biden has effectively and officially dropped out of the presidential race. And for a while, we were very concerned to see whether or not Joe Biden was still alive. There was rumors had it that he died. There were rumors floating around, and I saw something on the old TikTok today that apparently Joe Biden died in 2018, which leads to ask the question: who the hell is in office now? Are we living a real life Dave scenario? If you remember that movie, Dave was the guy that was an actor that looked like the sitting president, so they brought him in to hold down the fort while the president recovered to give the nation something less to deal with. And he started being too nice to everybody and it started raising questions. But yeah, no, we're just living a shit show, and this is about all we can talk about. So, with Joe Biden dropping out of the race, as we mentioned before on this show, that does not necessarily mean that Kamala Harris or come all over Harris, because she had proved positive that you can sleep your way to the top. But Kamala Harris is not, in fact, the presumptive nominee just because Joe Biden backed him. And a lot of people say, hey, we're going to back him too, including the delegates. But according to ABC News, Kamala Harris is not the nominee because even though Biden endorsed her, even though a huge wave of Democratic lawmakers and party elites have formally endorsed her candidacy, and a majority of Democratic Party delegates have said they will back her. Until they vote, though, it is not official. Um, she also isn't the presumptive nominee, as Biden was, and as her campaign has taken to calling her. That's a short term used to describe a candidate who has won the support of the majority of delegates through primary election and thus expected to become the party's nominee at the convention, presuming those delegates honor their pledge. Now, 3,886 delegates had pledged support to Biden to become the nominee, which there's 3,949 delegates total, so Joe Biden didn't have them all. Since the delegates who say they will back Harris weren't elected to do so through a primary election, they are free to vote for whomever they choose, even if they've informally pledged to support Harris. This is different from a so-called faithless elector who had pledged to vote for a certain candidate and had the opportunity to do so, but instead vote for someone else. Since Biden is no longer in the running, they won't be considered faithless. Um, but here's the thing. She is nothing more right now than someone traveling the country trying to drum up support. She is campaigning. That does not necessarily mean anything is going on. Uh, Unlike the Republican Party, where delegates are bound to a candidate, the Democratic Party rules simply state that a delegate must, in all good conscience, reflect the sentiments of those who elected them. Caitlin Jewett, a political science professor at Virginia Tech, said that the language means technically the delegates could always vote for someone other than Biden. And now that Biden has dropped out, those electors have even more standing to choose a new nominee, especially since there wasn't a competitive primary process. Basically, because there wasn't a lot of chance anybody else had. Yeah, they can vote for whoever they want and whomever they want. And they're going to keep voting during August 19th to the 22nd until someone is given the majority of it. Now, here's what I think. And I'm not a political science guy. I'm just some guy that sits here and looks at it through a different colored glasses. I'm not a red colored glass. I'm not a blue colored glass. My job here is I look at it this way. If Kamala Harris goes after Trump and she and him are campaigning, the only way I can foresee Kamala Harris winning this uh, election, good job. The only way I see, sorry, kid. The only way I could see that is if so many people still can't let go of that media hatred that was directed toward Trump and still continues to be to this day. Because quite honestly, listen, I'm not a hardcore Trump supporter. Again, I don't care. Because quite honestly, in either direction, they're all who they are. Okay, they want your vote because they want the power, they want the money. That's all they care about. But I can say under Trump, I could afford a lot more. My family wasn't struggling as hard as it is because everything went so haywire, but the pay never went up. But anyway, that's a different argument for a different day. Donald Trump has proven that he can lead the country because he has. There was no wars under Donald Trump. If you get around that media baloney that they were filing every chance they can to make Donald Trump look like something he wasn't, look, the man's an asshole. I can tell you that with a straight face, and I will for the rest of days. But you can't take away what he did. He got illegal immigration way down. There were no wars at all around this country. Putin went and annexed Crimea, I think it was, under Obama. But Trump basically said, hey, let's take a picture, but if you like the Kremlin looking the way it is, you're going to stay out of Ukraine. Putin went nowhere. Under Joe Biden, he invaded Ukraine. And we start funneling money, billions and billions of dollars. And look, I'm all for helping the world. I'm all for helping my fellow man, but I'm also not for just pouring money from my country to you to cover up other shit because we know that's what was happening. But so as I start thinking about what Kamala Harris is, she is not exactly the spitting image of what you want someone to be in charge of the company. Because here's the thing, Kamala Harris locked up more African Americans than than anyone else in the history of the country as a prosecutor. She would remind me of a lot of a darker version of Sarah Palin, and look her up because I'm pretty sure Harris has never shied away from the tough on crime label when it comes to certain class of criminals, domestic violence perpetrators, child abuser, and sex traffickers. After nearly a decade in the Alameda County and short stints as the deputy district attorney in San Fran, she left because she called the leadership there dysfunctional. Um, Quite honestly, just listening to her and you lose me as a human being when you literally sit there and you say that January 6th, 2020 was as bad of a day as September 11th, 2001. You lose me, and listening to anything else you ever will have to say again, because when you take a very dark day, one of the worst days in American history, where thousands of people died, and you compare it to a staged insurrection, and that's something I firmly believe in. Everything about it, the smell test here is so off that you just want to look at them and be like, there is absolutely no way that this was not set up. And just like the Trump assassination, I think there's more going on than what we're being told. And we're going to find that out slowly because we got a lot of great online detectives that are going to find the real truth. Am I glad that Cheadle, the director of the Secret Service, resigned? Absolutely. If you cannot do the basic job function of your job, you should not be at it. Doesn't matter who you are. You can be a manager at a Burger King. And if you cannot do the basic function of your job well, you have no reason to be at that job. Guys, welcome to the show. My name is David Mason, hanging out here alone, trying to hold down the fort, hoping Scott returns. I love you too, Alex. hoping that Scott returns, and we're talking constantly. I'm trying my best, but there's just some stuff going on behind the scenes with him right now, and that's all I can provide you. Because this is the OTPH show. If you just joined us and you're watching, by all means, like, love, subscribe, hit the notification bell, whatever you want to do. But remember, while you're here, you could also leave a comment live, and I will be more than glad to answer live on air. Am I ever going to tell you guys that I'm smarter than anybody else? The answer is absolutely not. I am a normal 9 to 5 kind of guy. I work my butt off. I bowl on the weekends. I have a family, and I'm not afraid to admit that I'm not going to know everything, but I also do my research, and I also step back and I say, what is the most that I can be doing right now? What can I inform the masses? How can I help this country be a little bit better than it was yesterday? And the attempted assassination of Donald Trump left me a little confused. Uh, After watching a lot of the Capitol Hill testimony of Deputy Cheadle, who absolutely had no business being in that job whatsoever, she dodged the question more than, I don't know, she dodged. She didn't answer a lot of things. She left a lot. She tried to use a lot of just generic terminology, and it's like, eh, you had a massive failure. Okay, listen. Is Donald Trump the current president? No. For those of you who have been living under a rock for the past 4 years, that's Joe Biden, who is our current president. Am I happy with Biden? No. There has been way too much crap going on under that man's quote unquote leadership. Just way too much negative bullshit. Kamala Harris, for those of you who are staunch people like me, where I believe, look, I'm all for immigration. I'm all for bring your tired, huddled masses here, as it says on the Statue of Liberty. But I'm for you doing it legally, the right way, the proper way, and the way that it is meant to be. I am not here to give you handouts because you walked across the border illegally. And we know that it's not necessarily people just walking up to the gates of the USA and go, hey, I'm here, buddy. What we're talking about is a lot of these people fly in from their the respective country that they came from, usually in South or Central America, and they just overstay their visas. So they started doing it right, but then they're just like, I like it here, we're going to stay. And so I start thinking a lot about what would Dave do as president? Well, we have to be tighter on the border because they're not just walking Mexicans across. They're not just walking Venezuelans and people from El Salvador or Colombia or Chile or Argentina. There are countries that could literally send sleeper agent from those ports and come in easily. And Kamala Harris is all for not criminalizing that either, allowing them and then handing them government funds, handing them stuff that families in this country who are here illegally, who are here legally, check that, should be getting. And the more I think about it, the more it's that simple of a problem with a very complex solution. Because how do we stop that? Obviously, with Trump border wall, hit or miss. And I know people are going to give me flack. I wasn't exactly against the border wall. What I'm against is making Mexico pay for it. But then I sat down and I'm like, well, how would we solve it? There's got to be a better vetting process. We have look at all these sanctuary cities when Greg Abbott in Texas and DeSantis started busting them to these sanctuary cities. They sure as hell changed their tune pretty quickly. Why? Because they could. But I have a problem with the fact that there are a lot of people that won't vote for Trump not because they stand because they're against something he said. They're against him because of what the media said. And when you ask them simple questions, and there's a guy on TikTok, I wish I could remember his name. We'll ask people that 'cause they'll call him a fascist. They'll call him all these names that are cue cards for uh for all the liberals and all those to use. Oh, you're just this, you're that, you're this, you're that. There's a cue card basically how to line up. And you can always tell when somebody is just blindly following the media. 'Cause when you ask them to give you an example, they tend to turn tail and run, or just call you a fascist or scream that you do not know. And that's kind of odd. Actually, that's really odd because you're telling me that you are going to call me something. Oh, you're a fascist. Most people in this country don't even know what a fascist is. The fascist is a far-right authoritarian ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in a neutral social hierarchy, subordination of individual interests for the perceived good of the nation or race, and strong regimentation of society and the economy. Hitler was a fascist. Am I saying Donald Trump does not possess some of the qualities of what makes a fascist? No, we all do. I, for one, am a die-hard American. I am a USA born, bred, proud to be here kind of guy. Does that necessarily mean that I'm a fascist? No, but I'm a nationalist because I believe in my nation. Dictatorial leader. Okay, here's where the problem is. For all you that hate Trump, you do know if you vote him in now, you only have 4 more years of him and he can never, ever, ever, ever run again. We in America have laws that prevent dictators. Is it possible someone can become one? Absolutely, but they have to have so much that they have to have so much and hit so fast that we won't have time to do anything. Militarism. I'm not sure that Trump's a militaristic kind of guy. He's not walking around like Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi, where they're walking around in full military garb with all their medals and all that other stuff. Same with Hussein. He was walking around with all his medals and that militarism. If you looked at Adolf Hitler, anytime they showed him, he was always wearing a military style uniform. But then we're looking at ultra-nationalist. I don't think he goes that far. Centralized autocracy. A system of government by one person with absolute power. Okay, fine. Autocracy. It really can't happen. Not because there are so many people that are not going to allow it to happen. See, for all this to happen, you have to be weak. You have to be very needy of a real leader. You look at even in Russia, with Putin. After Gorbachev stepped down, Putin came in. Putin been there forever and a day. That would be closer to fascism than the fact that since I was born, I had Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Bill Clinton, George Bush again, and then I had Obama, Trump, Biden, all in president. I was born at the end of Jimmy Carter's era. Jimmy Carter was one of the worst presidents we ever had. Not as bad as our current one, but that's another debate for another day. But when you look at all these people saying that Trump is a fascist, Trump is a fascist, that is what the media says. Trump is a racist. That is complete and utter bullshit. And I can prove that when Jennifer Hudson, I believe brother, I'm going to look it up. 29-year-old Jason Hudson and his mother Darnell Donaldson in 2008 were shot to death inside her home. However, people forget that it was Donald Trump that opened up his hotel. Donald Trump, without saying anything, housed the family until things were solved and everything got fixed. But let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about how he's won more NAACP awards than some black people. Let's not also argue the fact that Donald Trump has done more to try to promote a color-free society, meaning not just, oh, well, he's black, put him over there. If you talk about Joe Biden, look up that 1993 crime bill, you're going to find out that shit show was the real thing. If you look up Kamala Harris, she had prosecuted and incarcerated more black people than most other district attorneys in the history of ever. And we're talking even during the civil rights movement, where if you were black in the wrong neighborhood, you were being arrested because you did not belong there. But yeah, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about the fact that Donald Trump did that. But here's the fun part too. Whether you want to believe it or not, and look, a lot of people are angry because Trump said a thing and he tweeted mean thing, then Twitter, blah blah blah. But the thing is he was just saying a lot of the things that we wanted to say. He just had the nuts to say it. We were financially stable. We were globally independent, energy independent. We had the ability to afford stuff. Gas was less than $2 a gallon. And I know a lot of you guys are like, well, yeah. But the end of it saw COVID. And when COVID hit, look, I was right there with Scott. And if we get Scott, ever get him back, I'll tell you now, Scott and I are going to have one hell of a COVID episode. So, Scott, if you're watching, buddy, Scott was always put off by COVID. Look, we all had it. I've had it. My wife had it multiple times. My oldest has had it multiple times. My toddler even had it. It was a glorified flu. They made it look worse because they weren't sure what it was at first. I was one at early on was very intrigued by the process and I was following along, not because it was a sheep, but because it was new, it was fluid, and we didn't know. When they lost me was when they said you can go to a restaurant, you can take off your mask as long as you're sitting at your table, but Lord knows if you get up from your table, you got to put your mask back on immediately. And we all had fear that somebody from the city, someone from the town, a cop or somebody would come in and see you not complying, and they would shut that restaurant down. So, with that logic being said, Dr. Fauci, um, are you saying restaurant tables are a magic force field from COVID? But so as that shit show was winding down, the country was still irate over the fact that Donald Trump is, well, Donald Trump. All right. And so a lot of times people are like, well, it's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a fascist dictator. He just won. No, Donald Trump pretty much solved the border crisis. Donald Trump put more money in American pockets. Yeah, but that tax bill. All right, the tax thing. Only one category in this country actually saw their taxes go up. Only one. And guess what? That one category are people who make like $500,000 a year. So guys like you and me and anybody else not making $500,000 a year, your taxes did not change. What he did was change the tax structure so you got more back during the week than you had to instead of waiting until the year end and doing your taxes and getting a shit ton of money back then. But that's not a horrible thing either. So it's like, oh, well, he made executive order. So has Biden, so has every other president. That's the bonus of executive orders when you do them right. The judicial branch, our Supreme Court, could have easily stepped in on any of those and went, can't do that, dude. Can't do that. Oh, let's talk about that one too. Under Donald Trump, Roe v. Wade was eliminated. Which people lost their shit. Oh my God, they don't care about women reproductive rights. No, they just basically said government be out and you states decide how you want to run things. But then if they don't like it, it's on you, not me. And we all lost our shit. Oh my God, how can they do that to women? It's a war on women. It's a war on the uterus. It really wasn't, was it? Not at all. Now, look, I have minimal to no real opinion on abortion because it will never physically affect my body because I'm a dude. If you're not sure, the beard should say it all. All right. And I sit back and I constantly think about what what is it that Roe v. Wade was. It was just the federal government getting involved in something, quite frankly, they didn't need to. Oh, well, we need to pay taxes to fund the country. Up until the 40s, there was no income tax. There was no tax. We made money off of the tariffs that we got from importing goods from other countries. And it worked for almost 200 years. Then we got greedy. Oh, but Social Security. Social Security is being used as a carrot to dangle over all the people that are going to be retiring, wondering if their money is going to be there. But I don't know how it's not going to be there considering we're all paying into it weekly. I think it's just a negotiating chip for each of the parties when the chips are down. Oh my God, Social Security is going to be devoid of money and people are not going to get their retirements. Each of those accounts should be a bank account in my name. Every time I pay into it, that goes into the account, and then that's what pays me off for the rest of my life after I retire. Which, at the rate they're going, retirement will be about 95 years old. And Trump vowed to drain the swamp. Well, the problem with that is the swamp didn't want to be drained, so the swamp put up a fight and smeared the ever-loving crap out of him. Again, I am no hardcore Trump supporter, but I'm also not going to sit here and watch a man who don't deserve the bullshit deal with the bullshit. And everybody who ever said, "Oh, I can't stand Trump," why not? And they repeat everything the media has said. And then you sit back and you go, "But it's Donald Trump." Look, Donald Trump has always been the same guy. Loudmouth, brash, believes he's the greatest thing known to humankind. And you know what? Love him or hate him, he's proven that he was actually a pretty damn good leader for this country. Military funerals, he was at every one of them. Any soldier landed in this country in a casket, he was right there saluting them. Biden missed most of them, and half the time looked like he had something better to do. And I'm not just chirping on Biden because Obama, great salesperson. I always said he was a pitch man for the country. He said the right thing. He spoke very eloquently, but from a policy standpoint, the Affordable Care Act was a dumpster fire. And I'm not just blaming him because of the people who were supposed to do it that couldn't even get a website up and running properly. Sorry. Yeah. But then you look at under Biden, what had Biden done politically in his entire 40-year political career? And let me look it up. You know, what's sad is Google cannot show you. Oh, hang on. Okay. 10 highlight from Biden political career. Biden apparently was a 29-year-old senator. When he was even not old enough to run, it would still make me wonder. I'm just looking. But here's what I have a problem with: the 1993 crime bill, and that is what kind of bothered me. Let me get my fingers lined up. All right, so Joe Biden drafted the Senate version. Let's see some of the highlights. Federal assault weapon ban. Federal Death Penalty Act, elimination of higher education for inmates. Which wrong. Violent Act Against Women. Title 4, the Violence Against Women Act allocated $1.6 billion to help prevent and investigate violence against women. VAWA was renewed in 2000, 2005, and 2013. The Safe Street for Women Act, the Safe Home for Women Act. But still, that incarcerated and gave criminal records to more black men or black people in general than almost anything else. There was a lot of underhanded stuff, so you can tell me how good as this was. But yeah. And he's also a very racist dude. But yeah, if you didn't vote for him in 2020, you weren't black enough. AR-84, one of my good buddies. Love him to death. Hopefully tomorrow night we'll be partnering up and pairing as we work our way through a 47-foot pattern. Worded it best. Well, that must mean I have to hand in my black card. I am not a very political guy. I try not to be. I believe politics divides more than unifies. My political beliefs are our country should be number one priority. Everybody else needs to take a back seat until we fix this mess that we've created ourselves. The wokeism and all that other stuff, we need to take a step back and go back to the way it was, where everybody hated political leaders no matter what, but we still did our duty as American citizens because we have the resolve, the heart, the love, the firepower that tells everybody in the world that, hey, don't come and mess with us. And quite frankly, we are going to be the ones that are going to put the final bullets where they belong. I'm a huge fan of the military because, quite frankly, those guys do a job that a lot of us don't have the nut to do. And I'm going to say that again. Our military does a job that most of us do not have the balls to do. And what do I mean by that? I don't know if I could ever be flown up into an airplane and told, okay, now you jump. Come again? Not doing that. What would they do? I'm pretty sure they would just toss my ass out of the plane anyways. But then let's think about it too. You are going into another country with orders to shoot and kill anybody wearing the opposite uniform. This is a real live game of hide and gun and seek, and quite honestly, I could not do that. The thought that I would put another human being's life or my life within another human being's hand as we just played a big old game of my country has a bigger penis than you do, apparently, because we have more firepower. I would not be able to. I would not be able to I would not be able to walk around some random country with some of the booby traps that just came out of Vietnam. If you ever want to look into that, oh my gosh, there were a lot of them. And I started thinking out loud one day to myself at work while I was doing what I do for a living. And this country needs a shakeup. And we need a reboot. Not saying we need to annex the whole government and try again. We need to reboot. And I think I share a lot of the same echoes and sentiments as everybody else when I very loudly say we need fresh, young blood in there. People who are young enough to have an idea of what to do, but keep a couple of the old heads, the good ones, not you, Mitch McConnell. I think it's time for you to go too. So we're gonna, look at all of that because, quite honestly, politically stating, all politics have done is divide the country. You can't go and eat with that uncle that you love because dad and him always are arguing about Trump or Biden or this or that. They can't ever just get along because they view politics differently. Politics is the great divider, not the great equalizer. I wish I had more for you guys tonight, but I really don't. It's been a tiring week to say the least. I'm doing my best trying to hold down the show, guys. I can't thank you enough for everything you do. Every time you listen to what I do, my rants, the talking, I'm working behind the scenes trying to figure out how I can do better for you guys because you guys deserve the best show imaginable. And I can't explain it any better. I absolutely enjoy what I do here at the OTPH show. I really wish that I could be giving you better shows. Working on that. I really am because I want to give you guys the kind of show that you guys sit here and you just watch. And you're not only entertained, you're not only having fun. And I don't even think I'm streaming to the right crowd tonight. Nope, not even doing that. No wonder why nobody's watching. All right, guys, I'm going to pack up and then I'm going to go back online because I'm going to go to the crowd that normally watches me. All right, guys, have fun.